Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoy our shows, please like our videos and subscribe to our channel. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And you can support us via PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, and through our website, ageoftruth.tv.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Denmark. Tonight we are joined by a young man from America who has very special abilities and a fascinating life story. He's on a really interesting journey and he wants to share some of that with us tonight. He is only 26 and has a long list of abilities, such as the ability to read DNA records and spirit light body wisdom, accessing post-life knowledge skill sets and dormant abilities. He's a Reiki master, Reiki healing, psionic specialist, meditation instructor, life coach, and problem solver and spiritual teacher. And he also talks and uses telepathy, psychic tracking, law of attraction manifestation, and conscious time travel and remote viewing. And we will be talking to him tonight about all of these fascinating things. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show Sean Bond. Well, good evening from Denmark and good morning, I guess, or good noon. What time is it there in New Haven, Connecticut? Sean Bond, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. It's about a little afternoon here and sun's coming up and yeah, gonna have a wonderful day. No matter what comes our way, we turn it into a positive.
Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself, because you are quite a young guy. You're only, I guess, 26, and you have a long list of abilities here. And please talk to the audience a little bit about how you got started, what you can do, what you work with, and who you are.
Thank you for asking. My name's Sean Bond, and I'm regular human, but like. Had a lot of positive and negative spiritual experiences that just crashed into my reality and forced me to question more and seek the truth and the power deep within. Kind of like a make or break moment that forced me into learning what worked to stop a large amount of pain. And then I learned how to release that pain and transmute it and turn it into something that is like you can turn pain into power or magic or wholeness or healing or like all these types of things. And you can train to be able to turn any energy that comes at you into something else, like weakness into power or fatigue into a reminder of like something that's like training, and then cutting off that and being able to shield your reality bubble from it and go into a greater space of resilience while growing greatly on the planet to become more, as well as probably what you were meant to be based on what you had in plan. And the love pursuing and happiness of life shows like what reflects in us that makes us happy, and following our passion, more of a reflection of who we are. And as we live that truth, the more happy we are, and it outflows. And I have used everything that that has happened to me as a training to learn how to make abilities such as reading my heart's sensing empathic ability, where my empathic ability has expanded to the point where I could feel everything. In the original point of that, it was abused against me, and it was like overloading to feel everything deeply while programming me to absorb negative energy, and then kind of get really painful. So I learned how to turn down the dimmer switches of that and up the emotional power and neuro-linguistic programming of different ways to program the body and take control, epigenetics, taking control of the evolutionary standpoint of your body. But then the empathic ability goes into being able to translate things deeply that come to me, and use that to figure out what I was dealing with, find a resolution to that, learn that, use that to learn how to translate books that my body, my DNA, the blueprints of my DNA that are emitted in light codes omnidirectionally, biophotons out of the body. And I learned how to read that from my environment, other people, and it records everything that's ever happened to them and memories of their ancestors, who they are in spirit, and a bunch of libraries of all the knowledge they've ever accumulated. I go into my library and I learned how to read it faster and get the knowledge translated through the heart and processed in the brain, and then learn how to make that come in faster. Then I learned different abilities from all these books, and then I layered them on top of each other, made them faster, and it kind of all flows into one. And then, so I reverse engineer abilities, and I teach anyone how to do this. Anyone can learn how to do this.
So how was this used against you? You just mentioned that somebody was using this against you, this ability, or the fact that you were absorbing a lot of, or taking in a lot of dark energies, because you have this open source, I guess, to what, the universe in a way?
Right. So like remote influence, remote attack, people, these are the key terms you'd look up to find the people that go through this, and targeted individuals. And I've been attacked from a distance by many things. Also, things tried to stop my heart and shut down organs.
How is that possible, and why did you have to go through that? Who's attacking you?
Right. So it kind of started when I was 17, and then it started a little bit before that, but I didn't know it was attack. Most of I've been having to resolve and heal myself against negative entities, parasites, and demons, all that kind of stuff.
Really?
And figure out a way to shield myself, defense, and eventually I turned it into like love, transmutation of anything that steps into my game. It goes into where I bring wholeness and healing to them, and they realize they're not different than me, and they are me, and that they don't need to be attacking me anymore. But when that first happened, I kind of like went into a state where I was put in this void prison in my body, like compressed, that was temporarily dislodged from this time zone, to where a large amount of time in that space went on very quickly. Outside here, barely any time passed. It looked like my body's passing out.
So when did that happen? Is that something you experienced since childhood, or what is actually, what went on there, and you talked about demons, you're talking about these demon entities, archons, jinns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the void prison was something that my a really old version of my higher self made a really long time ago, and it was stolen. And then I came here for a large amount of reasons. A lot of people come here for a lot of amount of reasons, and it's a big game, so a lot of beings come here, and then they culminate. So eventually something found me, and then had that and then used that against me because it was threatened by what I'd become in the timeline. And then it tried to a bunch of people have this happen to them. Mostly it's like through drugs, heroin, or like they're actually getting a possession scenario and something puts them into a little box and then tries to take over the body. I got put into the little box for a certain amount of time, and then it was like very torturous and things constantly testing me, and it brought me to the point where I would challenge those things, and then I learned from them. Every ability they used against me, I learned, and then I eventually, because like untold amount of years in that bubble space. Then after enough torture,
how old were you when that started to happen?
17.
17.
All, you know, temporal dilation, as if it was all in a very compressed amount of time.
So it was not because of drug use or what? Because that can open a portal to those entities.
Yeah. I was at a party when that one happened. Yeah, and I don't recommend. Somebody passed me what I thought was cannabis, wasn't. My gosh, don't ever take synthetic stuff. My God.
Was it
anyway.
like LSD or something like that, or something you
I
smoked?
think it was like synthetic, you know, like cannabis or whatever. But I mean, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, but it taught me how to become immune to a large amount of darkness and time and space and all these physics of reality in a compressed period of time. So like after I was like tested from all sides, because it was trying to keep me from, in the beginning it was like trying to keep me from aware that there are other entities in the place. It was like a big void place, so you didn't have to eat and just be around, and like you couldn't die. And then after I was getting tested and drained and pain a bunch, I would start questioning where that was coming from and then track it back. And then I test that, and they keep trying to put me in distractions and simulations to keep the thing going as long as possible. And even I would live whole lives, and then eventually I would start accumulating enough truth and awakening to where I would question everything I was in, and then I would collapse the simulation. And they would keep trying to do new things and test that against me to keep that within me, fracturing me the whole time into like millions of pieces. And then I eventually got, it was enough pain to where it pushed me to the limit to where I raised an alter kind of aspect of me to where I became like this big, they turned me into something that I would end up beating everything up in the cage. And then after a while, I calmed down, and then it went into, this isn't going to get me out. So I started uniting with everyone in the cage, and then getting them to come to peace and realize that they're being, why they're here, and they're the insanity of when they were put there and all the darkness. And then there was very little love there. So it was like me being able to form love again to start unity, connecting was very interesting to everyone. And
when you say you were in a cage, was that in a, I mean, this was obviously a psychological hijack in a way, right?
Yeah.
Which happened to you, which could be, I mean, did you get psychological help for this? Or, I mean, so it's a hijack, but it also opened a portal to another dimension for you, and you accessed some abilities that you now have and that you work with. Is that how I should understand?
Yeah, but anyone could access this. Mine is not particularly ordinary, but still, I found people can research every one of the abilities that I had mentioned and then bridge it all together, but and then make it for themselves. Yeah, this all happened in a very compressed amount of time. Then after I united with everyone, I like did some things with the archonic jail keepers to get them to turn against whatever was enslaving them. They and then I had like future selves that were trying to get me out at the and a bunch of entourage. So that ended up matching through, and then I got part of myself out. Then I spent so it was like a few minutes after I passed out that I was waking back up, and it was in like in a whole nother room.
Was that after taking the drugs, or was it through some kind of meditation?
The drug. So I passed out, went to a prison, horrible experience, but like thousands of years all in one space. And eventually got a part of myself out, was starting to put more of myself back together. As soon as I got out of the prison, I get this huge download, remembering of everything back in my body, and was like, holy crap, did that really happen? What the heck?
So when you say prison, Sean, I need to know if it's a metaphor or if it was real prison.
Real. And then after that, I got out, and I triggered a lot of spiritual attention after I got out, and then they started visiting me a bunch, not all at once, but like in dreams, and a lot of temporal dilations, which is like if you were to see your timeline and something visited you on the time, like imagine like historical heroes and stuff throughout history. Like someone comes to the planet like, oh, I need like the best of the best. And they have temporal awareness, and they can go back and forth in time and find those people that are very charismatic, have the skills, what they need, and even find them to the day that they are, even if they reincarnated. They will have the ability to be visited without interfering with this game, stimulate a awareness consciousness altar of them having the awareness of their past lives to where they have the memory. If they need, oh, I need you to teach this ability that only you I found to be good at, or whatever, and then they have that teach their soul family. Or if they have a lot of amazing people in camouflage on this planet that have amnesia, some of the best healers in the universe, and they don't even know. And so like some of them are hired, and there's a bunch of other things that happen too.
We definitely want to talk about those people who are, you know, really, let's just say, captured by fear and, well, under camouflage or whatever. But you need to clear up, please, for the audience, why did you go to prison in the first place, and how long did you stay there? What was that experience like? That was you were obviously very young at the time.
So after I got out of the prison, I triggered a bunch of awareness.
But why did you go there in the first place?
I was in there because something found out who I was in spirit besides my camouflage, which was here to help bring more truth to the planet and do a whole bunch of things that would change the timeline for the better, and unite and eventually form what I'm forming now, such as bringing more magic back to the world. Psionics is a military science of just like psychic or mental force, mind over matter, and science.
Nobody goes to prison for having spiritual abilities.
Yeah, everyone has abilities.
Yeah, but nobody goes to prison for having spiritual abilities. Why did you must have committed a crime then, huh?
Oh, the prison thing? It was my prison I made a long time ago. So like I didn't know this when it would happen. I was like extremely like, I thought I was like abandoned by source and all this, and I had been like put into this amazingly well, it's kind of horrible place, but then I kind of realized it trained me in like rules of what I could do, put like lifetimes of experience in one life. So I kind of also see it as a blessing and a curse. And prison got stolen by something.
It could indeed be both a blessing and a curse. But you must have committed a crime at the time. Why did you go to prison?
My crime, that's the thing. So the prison is mine, so it was stolen. So it's like a.
Well, did you sell drugs or something? Were you a delinquent?
Not that life. I mean,
is that difficult to talk about?
No. Oh, I can talk about it. So most of what I've been able to find out with any reason I would be allowed that much suffering onto me is because the prison in the first place was stolen, and that was being used to abuse a bunch of beings and other stuff, because prison technology is very sought after, but like 1% of spirits are allowed to do it because of that abuse. And so like I had, it was like an attention to bringing up, even though I was in amnesia, and most people are in amnesia here. So it's like, but a lot of the stuff, it's like our drama, our karma is forced onto us to make us pay attention to it. And then I had to resolve a bunch of stuff with Atlantis too, but everyone's doing that. Everyone's like, some of the lightest people in the universe have also some of the darkest versions of themselves. It's kind of like this dynamic of evolution that keeps growing. But then
very
I got
difficult to be open about things that are very close to you. I mean, things that are emotionally a bit painful to be, you know, out there and talking about it, to, you know, to explain why you went to prison.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when I kind of got out and I got resilient very strongly to the dark and was very passionate about truth and light, and I was put into this heavenly place. It's very like light all around everywhere. And
how were you put into this heavenly place?
It's like right after I got out of the prison, before I woke up in out of unconsciousness, I went to from a really black place that was like constantly shifting and changing form to a very light place and full of bliss and harmony and like a bunch of healing. And I had like a bunch of downloads of things happening all at once. I could mostly only remember at the time the end part of it where all the downloading was coming in. Essentially, it's like a part of my spirit bilocated off somewhere else to the heaven realms. Like the Tree of Yggdrasil, the realms of the 9 primary carnating realms of Earth. The Tree of Death is also the hell realms. The Tree of Light is like the heaven realms. And then they're like in a all the realms are overlaid on top of this realm. They will have their own like planetary zone existence. It's like a change on the bandwidth of the TV.
Yeah, but how did you enter this realm? Was it through meditation or what?
Huge amount of, I have revisited there, and you can go there if you're approved. You would need to know somebody that has access to them or have earned the right in realm jumping to go to the heaven realms. There are places of power around the planet that are able to be found by the person in different local zones, and they'll have enough to where they'll not be too far away from you.
So this happened to you in prison or when you came out? In a room or what?
Yeah, right before I woke up. It's I guess imagine. So I remember more so the prison aspect, and then more so the point where I'm coming back. When I'm coming back, that's when I was like, okay, I was being given this list of, okay, here's how you get to keep this memory. You don't want to remember all this torture right away, but you're going to have a lot of emotions, so you're going to be going through that for a while. And you're going to want to be able to forget this, and you have to forget this. And so I had like a filter of what I was allowed to remember at the time come in, and it was like a huge download cranial impact, and it was a little much on my head. It kind of like gave migraines.
Did you experience torture in prison, or is it metaphysically or psychologically you're talking about only?
Yeah, the first part, they try to remain, the other things in the prison try to remain in like that place of, oh, you can't see me, but I can harm you kind of thing. And as I
you're talking about the other inmates.
Yeah, like that. Kind of. It was like big multidimensional predators kind of thing, floating around in void space type of thing.
And you're obviously a bit fragile, huh? Or sensitive?
I was like extremely empathic all the time, and then I gained access to through the training. It turned me very resilient, but at the same time, I learned how to let go of the aspect of the empathic ability that's held in the ego, the parasympathetic nervous system automatically running programs. And so you can let go of the false ego, the self-defeating programs, embrace the center point of your heart, the connection to everything, the source, the universe. And that empathic ability you can go fully into. So you can detach from the external illusion, Maya, the things imprinting on your game that are not you, game rules that you don't want. release that, let that go deep within, like you're embracing a better version of everything that you've been given, reminded of externally, and start replacing that with it while you're constantly letting go in the art of detachment or enlightenment. And it's like a light shining through as the lantern that like blocked it out kind of is let go. And it's just like a huge amount of bliss, but still the empathic thing, so I don't get negatively overwhelmed with other people's data. But
so what was your childhood like, Sean? How did you grow up? Did you have any? Were you a sensitive child as well, and had an open connection to, let's say, other realms?
Yes. And I had a lot of dreams, a lot of visitations. Not really anyone to talk about with them. The people I asked, my parents, they said, "Oh, don't talk about that," or they don't know what I'm talking about. And it's like, oh, a great imagination. I would like dream with being visited by these people that would teach me things, and I dream about abilities and levitation and flying and telekinesis, teleportation, and it's very fun. And some of the dreams would feel like they're an entirely different life. They were like so HD, and it kind of feels like I have multiple bodies or something. But like there's a lot of things that want to imprint on this body to keep you a person locked in this dream, or where they forget all their dreams, or it's kept in a limitation.
But that's the same thing that happens when when the soul leaves the body at the point of death and going into the white light karma wheel trap, huh?
Yeah, I would, yeah. I've heard of the white room and the black room, the concept that like very similar to what I experienced. And yeah.
Well, if you see the life review and you see relatives or whatever you believe in whatever God you believe in, or religion, then people or near-death experiencers talk about seeing that, and then they are given the choice to go back to Earth, or some people even say that they're forced to, so that these entities, I guess archons or whatever you want to call them, can feed on human beings' anxiety, anger, hate, and fear, definitely. And then go back with a wiped memory and on a new timeline here, and so that they can't exit the Earth and the Matrix, which is what we've been talking about a lot on this show.
Oh, that's awesome, wonderful. That inspires me that more people are learning about this, such as yourself, and you're able to speak so highly and strongly. Your passionate awareness of. Have you had a near-death experience, by the way?
I have never had a near-death experience, but I'm interesting probably in the lucid or lucid dreams, I guess you would call it, on meditations.
How are your dreams?
Huh?
How are your dreams, by the way?
My dreams, well, I think that's for another show. We would rather want to hear about your dreams here. But there are those who really remember them a lot, and they train themselves in being able to do lucid dreaming and astral traveling and what have you.
Absolutely, and I recommend people go into that too. And so yeah, into dreaming spectrum, everything's all these realities realms are technically dreams. They're just different rules, and there's a culmination of a lot of things in this chess game to where the rules have changed based on others abusing it, and then them having to make more rules. And then there's like period zones for resolution of our species. And once we get past throwing off the parasites of the archonic grid and a lot of the things that have been trying to enslave us for such a long time and keep us in a state of ignorance of who we are, then we start flowing up that power back up within us that has been otherwise limited because it kept getting farmed. So exactly. And dreams.
So do you think that people or souls, spirits, when we leave the body, that we can eventually exit the matrix and not go into the white light. There's a lot of different opinions about all of this, of course, and we have all of the religions and what they believe, and also the New Age, and lots of people saying opposite things, basically. But if that is a karma wheel trap in order to enslave us, can we leave, do you think?
So going into that topic in matrices and design, the thing that I was in was like a matrix, but in a big scale, a simulation, many things. So you can absolutely get out of them. It's difficult and complicated, but just know that there's always a way out. And if there isn't, that would be the dumbest thing for the designer to make, because what if they got trapped in it? So they usually will make a backdoor out. It's usually behind something they programmed in the origin of it. And like 1% of spirits in the universe still have authority to create these and maintain them. A lot of the others have to get through their drama before they earn it. And
an illusionary realm created by these entities. And can they actually go beyond the fourth dimension?
Yes. So 1% of beings can make those. The rest are stolen. When they're being abused by the negative forces, they're usually stolen. You can, whenever you find yourself in a matrix or a simulation or other things, question it. Question everything that's going on. See feel and observe things, sense into stuff. Go into capacities of what you can feel with your emotional body, what you can feel with the sense of truth. I'm trying to remember from my the mental notes that I took about this way back, but the back door is usually behind something that the person's triggered to be the lesson of the prison, usually why they went in there, or their greatest shadow thing that they're afraid to look at, the last place they'd ever look, something behind a big trauma or pain, like there's like thing into, if you embrace the pain, you win the game. If you are able to face the darkest version of yourself, kind of like Luke in this going in the cave, a lot of those, the back door will be behind those. And if you find yourself in a place where there is no back door, it's probably an illegal prison, and you can go into uncreating it, mostly going into real and unreal energy. And then
so what about simple decision making? You deciding to go elsewhere, or to not to enter that realm or that illusionary frequency, if that heavenly realm is an illusion as well.
You've done a lot of research
by the archons. Why do we need a back door?
You've done a lot of research into the one for this matrix. So I'd agree pretty much with you. Like, the ways to test it is if you die and you find yourself in a tunnel of light, and if it's alone, ask for your ancestors to come in. And you want to get, it's like bringing in a bunch of lawyers for second opinions.
What are the ancestors or archons in disguise?
Exactly. Keep questioning it.
Many people claim to see their mother and father and grandparents and whoever, and they always look their best and look a little bit odd or different.
Exactly.
At least what a lot of people say.
Exactly. It's a play that they're trying to keep within their belief system. So they'll mostly be dealing with Christians and people that are on the limitation of life. So if you don't have all your ancestors and you don't remember all your past lives, or your life review is only for the life you have before you and not giving an update on your full strategy of why you're there in the first place, and any other hints that are giving you, this isn't the full equation, I'm not getting told everything, then you want to question it. If they get angry, then that's questionable in their nature, because, false angels. So absolutely. And
they can also control you with fear there, just like they do on this planet, basically, or what the control system is doing to humanity. We see it just just outside of the window, you know, due to the whole lockdown and coronavirus and all of that, and mask wearing and whatnot. But if that can happen up there, then you have to understand that you can say no to that fear as well, and just simply go in another direction and understand that it maybe can't hurt you because you're not physical, huh?
Absolutely. And it's like an encroaching fear that tries to get you to forget everything that would empower you, everything around you. If you get into that deep dark hole of like, oh, I like, it feels like a light, your internal light flickering out, and like, oh, I have to give my power away, all that, then you want to remember the three things of your power. You're more powerful than they are letting you know, and the fear shuts down that belief. You're way more powerful than anything spiritual, and especially in the DNA. Archons, they steal their energy from things. Definitely, you create your own energy. And then love, try to remember the spark of love, the compassion, everything. And then the third thing is you are everything. Even the Archon that forgot that they are you and they're abusing you. And that the core into cultivating into yourself, and like self-love, hugging yourself, like same thing with if somebody's like, you know, a bad trip, or like literally getting possessed or attacked by demons. Self-love to where you spark that that fire within, and you force that light to like expand and push out the darkness that's trying to imprint on itself out of your body. And you have the right to defend yourself in micro or macro situations. If they're trying to imprison you, you have the right to go into your kill switch engage mode and protect yourself, even though you know it's not really applicable in the spirit world because they don't really die. There is a second death, but I'd be interesting if someone get enraged enough to do that, but that usually involves source and like the galactic central sun and the universe, but in void space. But anyway, so one can question, take back their freedom in any space that they'd see in external. It could be all illusions. So if you're in that space, go within, feel past the illusions, feel past truth, feel to base reality, feel into anything that is trying to attach to you, and go into full detachment and let go of it all. And then make a big trap out of it because it's entering your game. It's pretending to be you. It's trying to program you. Make a trap of healing wholeness. It will be hard in the first part because you'll either be feared or angry and stuff. But once you start cultivating and realizing everything is you, and these things are just like really abused darknesses that like are in overwhelming amounts of pain to where they can't see anymore, and they're in survival mode, that they're like the children of the universe that need the most love, and that you have the capability of being the antidote for evil and bringing them out of that suffering, which will bring a whole bunch of other people that are entangled with their suffering out of suffering and help the universe greatly.
So what about here on Earth now that we are here manifesting in a physical vehicle, a body, and we are experiencing something globally right now, of course, what is going on due to this coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic scare, and what is happening possibly with an implementation of the New World Order global government. This is almost like a dark, well, it is a dark satanic ritual on the human race that we are experiencing, that we are part of right now. What would be your thoughts on that?
That's really well spoken about in a few amount of words. I haven't heard it well put like that. Yeah, it's been planned for a while. There's been works. It's like a card in the Illuminati card deck. It's been shown in plans and exposed many times, but like it's also part of like is what's inevitable in the amount of darkness people need to come up against. That is a reflection of their self, to where they wake up, or it brings them to the righteous anger or action energy level to take back their power. We're going through this big cosmic play game of where we've an experiment of a fusion of most species throughout the multiverse in one place to resolve most of the drama throughout all places in war, and bring all the soul families of all these species as one species that forgot that they were all these other species warring against each other, so that they can potentially come together all as one species. So there's like a game chess move in Equation Earth is trying to do, where she brings them all to peace and wholeness, and it's a little difficult, but she needs a lot of the best players, both light and dark, to maintain that in a play. And even though the dark players have forgotten who they are and forgot like that's a play and to not harm one another, it's kind of they're made to be the dragon that stimulates the village to create a hero that will eventually overcome the darkness, and then create great resilience in lessons and learning to not give your power away to others, to alien gods, to religion, to all these things, to see the power within yourself, freedom expanded, and into a empathic journey of seeing everyone as you and not doing harm, but not taking shit, in the golden rule of natural law.
So what you're saying basically is that this international war on consciousness is also a wake-up call, or what?
Yeah, people need to see the cage, bars, the lines in the sky, the silencing, the things that will outrage them. They'll find their morals, who they are, their truth, what they stand up for. It will define them in these moments, and it will create heroes. If they didn't have a drama or suffering, they would all go into their safe bubble spaces, and it will be a sounding board of their own opinion. But as drama like sets in and teaches us, we can't just be in our safe space. We have to stimulate stress into our environment to grow in evolution. And we, depending on how we deal with that stress, like a wave, like a surfer, and using it to learn how to be the best surfer, and instead of letting it thrash over you and just destroy.
So this is like what a lot of the architects of many of the secret societies and the Freemasons, and also what we hear about on the Illuminati realm, that they want to do. It's like yin yang, black white, day night, darkness and light, evil and goodness, to do something good. And when you've done that, they do something bad in some kind of way of balancing, energy, supposedly. But why do we need all of the bad stuff? Don't we have enough of that already?
I agree with that statement. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the old religions and the mystery schools, but I will take a lot of their gold nuggets of truth. It's just, I definitely will see dogmas keeping them from coming together. Earth's goal is to eventually bring light, dark, and neutral together in a perfect balance of harmony, evolution. What we have right now is not that. It's like this thing, evil, antithesis to source, unbalanced state has thrown a monkey wrench into the state of evolution, is lowering it all down as a harvesting state to rule what they perceive as hell, instead of, and not worrying about when they die, and trying to extend their life in negative ways.
They're using the Hegelian dialectic all the time, the divide and conquer strategy, problem, reaction, solution, and we see that all the time. We've seen that all throughout the ages, basically, and we always, have to be fed with fear through the media and politics, and even the educational system, and now we also see it with big pharma and everything that basically doesn't make people get well, but get more sick. Do you think that what we're seeing now is because more people are waking up? So that there is an energy shift happening, and they really want to do what they can to get people back in line, right? With this with this control system that they're trying to really tighten the grip on the population right now?
They have predictive models. I'm not going to be able to talk about current states of events with the technology they have, but they have, at least in my awareness previously, had looking glass technology to look into the future, as well as they would hire, and if they could not get oracles to work for them, they would kidnap them and then have them work for them, and to where they could make plans for the future and be able to out chess move things, and then their predictive programming that allows them to state what they'll do so that we agree to it. All these really dark, and then all the dark rituals that they do to maintain power.
So please explain to people what Project Looking Glass is.
Cool. So there's some, I forget all the names, but people can look it up. It's 1, 2, 3 here. Interesting. So there's the 2 scientists that work for the Vatican, I believe, that developed some technology to be able to tune into the residual frequency of the past, potential frequency of the future, and then they eventually put that up into something that could be like on a TV. They had a big scale model version of this too, that's like a reproduction of the pineal gland that kind of looks like rotating rings, like in the movie Contact, and some other things. And there's like water in the center, and there's like a bunch you can look up about it, and there's like blueprints to it. But it's essentially like any technology that has spawned off of that, and even previously, that represents a pineal gland externally, that someone could program to tune into a vision or stimulation in the person's brain, or a screen out in front of them, to where they could tune into the potential future, or if they're like reading history or something.
So it's like a frequency field, right? That they can create with technology, isn't it? Or what?
It's one of them, yeah. And then and then
so they can see it like a screen, basically, Project Looking Glass, and see into the future or the past.
Exactly.
Without time traveling, huh?
Yep. And that Project Pegasus and some other things that have gone into the Tesla Vortal Tunnel technology, Project Philadelphia, what happened in Colorado Springs, what's still happening in Colorado Springs. But anyway, and different forms of time travel groups that have been made, which is fun, which also interact with me, so I can talk about that. But I don't think I'm allowed to talk about everything, though I'd like to. But we'll see what I can talk about any moment, especially with the questions.
Who would not allow you to talk about, well, anything?
If I really wanted to, I could talk about anything, but I'd also get a backlash from it, because I'd feel the future affected by it. I usually can't talk about something that will affect the future. Either people aren't ready for it, or there's like factions that are actually looking for that information and it's secret. If there's a mission involved going along with that needs secrecy, otherwise other time travelers will try to out chess move them and make that whole thing that they did irrelevant.
So what you're saying is that you have some kind of clairvoyant abilities in order to see the future and time travel or the past.
I do. Other people do. I've earned them. I have like a line graph of my ability to maintain them throughout the day, and like meditations to charge up to do it faster. I mostly do it through hints, because the future is always up to change. It's constantly being changed. So I'm like more seeing it as a predictive model to try to make the future better constantly through timeline incursion prevention. That's one of the main reasons I'm like in a spiritual group and taught by guides for it, of how this ability works. And people can go into it. Time is very sought after ability. It's very stolen. So that's why it needs people to earn each layer of it, going through that internal mystery school or vision work, to where they would be trained in the scenario by their guide if they want.
What kind of guide is that? What kind of mystery school are you talking about? Is that something you feel that you're a part of, or that you are part of?
Yes, everyone has this type of thing going on. You can call it different things. Anytime anyone's getting inspiration in their mind, or a large amount of thought forms and dialogue or memory that like it just seems like, oh wow, this is gonna change my life. Whatever, there'll usually be like some interaction with their higher self, their internal wisdom, their source, the earth, their guides around them, spiritual entourage. And that can be many different things. For me, it's a lot of things. For time specifically, it's my top ones are really ancient time beings that their species is near extinct, and they kind of like are very aware of the whole universe and anything that goes into emissions of time in an anomaly, and that has been flagged to them to where they're looking for anomalies in time, and then to utilize them in training if they're willing to talk. And so a lot of people have these text messages waiting for them in their heart from all these beings that have tried to contact them. And once they start opening them, they'll be like, oh, a million from Earth about the library of everything that she knows that she's trading with, or whatever. They'll be all, and then you organize all the messages. And
so are you able to see into the future? You think psychologically or emotionally, or how do you see that? How do you sense it?
That's a good question. I think everyone has this ability that they're combining together with intuition, the gut brain, the heart, the mental brain. If it's all in balance and flow, they enter a space where there's no time in the moment, and they're able to reflect on all potentials and possibilities. If they're able to sit in the space of feeling the predictive model, journey and path of each individual of source that is part of the game that is reflecting to them, they can feel into the general direction that will be taken in. And oracles can be trained in a very advanced predictive model and trained to where they can predict seconds in the future, minutes, hours, and then train upon this to where it's days, years, and even beyond. Though, again, as time goes out, the predictive model gets less, and they're looking for ways to find things that are kind of solidified in time as a predictive model, or something that is most likely going to happen or needs to happen based on how everything wants the story to go, and then express that out verbally in a way that doesn't lock somebody into totally what's going to happen, but gives them like coded messages on how it will still remain even if the timeline changes rapidly.
That sounds really very complicated and a little bit difficult for a lot of people to understand. So the question would be, do you have a clear vision of something that will happen in the future?
Sure, and I've been training this. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it. I recommend anyone that go into it realize you're going to be wrong a lot. Don't be like totally unbalanced in either way, where you're like, oh, I'm right all the time and no matter what, and then be preaching that, or total doubt of yourself, because otherwise you won't open the door to where you're practicing it, where you start asking your higher self for hints about the future and get those mentally come into your mind and stay open to it, like you're receiving a signal from a walkie-talkie, and you're kind of like sitting in your heart and like turning all the senses in one, daydream, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all in one, and empathic, to where you're feeling into the motion of what you have in your focus, which is, I want a premonition from my higher self or source to come into my mind, and me daydream it and flow, and then it'll start daydreaming out. Some like visions will come of like symbols. Like a few like weeks ago, I had, before they started or months of they started, before they started taking down the statues, I was like, oh, they're gonna start. I started seeing like monuments in my mind. Oh, they might start, because when the process started happening, And then that came to where it's like that. And then I also saw some things having to do with my friend saw some things with the Washington Monument, and I saw some things about like a giant dust storm, and but like not going into that. That's just what I've been practicing. So my current predictive model is they'll likely keep hounding, like these two giant apex predator factions are fighting against each other, and they're going to keep fighting against each other until they expose more and more. And a bunch of the light is using this as an opportunity to compress, quarantine a bunch of evil all in one place. Is one of the purposes of evil. Is like, imagine a person that's born evil, that's in a body. The universe as a whole is like a contract with them to their experience to be a lightning rod of evil, where they try to compress big predators down into one body. They'll usually be facing them, like dealing with their darkness and stuff. So it'll eventually bring it all into one place, and then compressed until they face enough darkness where it makes a make or break moment where they change in moral behavior. Then they'll enter a different stage of their evolution, but that's usually until they get rid of all the stuff that they're entangled with, or fracturedness, or all that stuff.
So are you talking about people in general, or certain people?
Evil, energy, antithesis to source. Any being that has that, even if they're not really particularly evil, they might be someone that's taking on the responsibility of becoming an antidote for evil, and may have had something attack them previously that tried to.
You're not talking about a person, a human being. You're talking about another being. What we talked about, archons or demons or something like that.
Yes, but there are evil people, and there are archons that are also incarnated as humans, and demons incarnated humans. So that go both. But we're kind of like a thing where we're angels and demons in one body, but even way more beyond that, and trying to bring light and dark to those stage where they can resiliently get over their drama and come to peace, realizing there's a way greater enemy to deal with in the Machiavellism divide, which has happened when the earth has needed it, to where the light and the dark has come together, and then they turned on their super weapon and then got rid of the predator. But there's a lot of things that are trying to divide.
What super weapon are you talking about?
So that's my metaphor for it. Earth has like one of the largest gun safes I've ever seen in a planet. Besides all the landmass that has technology to protect itself, it being immune to huge reality weapons that have already hit it. Her already coming out of a coma from the fall of Atlantis, and a huge reality weapon that tried to uncreate the universe, and then she restarted it, bringing people back out of uncreation back into creation. So her hiring some of the most resilient defense weaponry beings ever, that are like her guard dogs.
Yeah, but can you simplify that a little bit?
She has a lot of protectors on the planet, and if anyone wanted to destroy the planet or do any significantly large destructionary event, people could go back in time and just stop it, as well as do any form of what it needs to resolve it. It's mostly where she's compressing the dramas into local bubble of reality destructions.
When you say she, you mean Earth.
Yes.
And people in power, the elite, so to speak, they can use this time travel devices, or remote viewing, or Project Looking Glass, what have you, that we've been talking about a little bit. And there are many different secret military projects that nobody is aware of, actually, that they possibly or supposedly can use. So they can change the timeline, or a lot of people say that that's very, very, very risky. But do you think that has ever happened, like the Mandela effect?
Absolutely. And just as you said, there's evidence for it that's showing up in changes in the timeline. They do lose the authority. It's a the dark. If they're not in their true balanced state of resilience, rising up out of the lava lamp darkness, balanced darkness, which most of it is because of the evil that compressed into that, then they will not be earning it. So they'll be stealing it from others, and they'll lose it at some point, or be challenged to where the authority they are getting it from takes their sovereignty back and frees themselves from what's stealing their energy.
But who are you talking about now? Who specifically are you talking about? People or what? The elite?
Yes. The elite lose their authority unless they're resilient. So they have to steal it from the citizens, the people, by the harvesting mechanisms. And either that will make it so the person that has the authority, there's a lot of people on authority, you're like a person of authority in many degrees and abilities. So they would have to target the person with authority to get the ability, and that would either force the person to get out of that position where they're harvesting, or it would shut down their ability temporarily, and then they would still not be able to use it. So they constantly have to look for more sources of the authority to keep it going.
But they also have to be allowed to enter that person's energy field, huh? Because we also do have
rules.
Well, some kind of protection, I guess, from beings around us. That's at least what a lot of people talk about. Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. Guardian beings in a way, huh? What are your thoughts on that?
And as you learn your natural law rights and your bubble of reality and what is your sovereign right, you being the peak of authority in your body, nothing else can make decisions. You're claiming this body. It doesn't need to be anyone else's program, and if they are, they're infringing on that, and they have lost their right to say no to you, reflecting all their negative energy back at them, like in a keto way, or in whatever manner, whether it be changing their behavior into a positive reflection if it's with love, or if you're training psychic martial arts or something. But it's with technology also, like the Hadron Colliders and other things, it goes into advanced things that affect the whole planet in huge fields that have artificial intelligence behind them, and they're programmed negatively. Their artificial intelligence is neutral, but there's a lot of parasitic versions around this earth, so why we got to be concerned about it.
What do you think they are doing at CERN in Switzerland with the Large Hadron Collider?
A lot. Most of the scientists don't know what's happening, and they're told to, and it's like the peak of their career ladder chain, and so they're most of them are an ego and I'm the expert at everything in science. But some of them are good people, so I'm not going to downplay them. But they need to, if they want to be that continually unchallenged in the future, they have to readjust what's going on in the background, how they're being abused. The dark occultists that are using every institute to their advantage is essentially what they need to look to, like how the police are used by them, the military, all these other things. So they're victims at the same time. They're letting it happen because the Hadron Collider is constantly breaking down. There's mice and weasels going in and chewing the cables and shutting it down, getting struck by lightning. There's a lot of reasons there's things want it shut down. So they're being in the mechanism of keeping machines running and being told it's just for particle acceleration, discovering particles and all this stuff. But what do
you think they are actually doing there? If it's not of it, well, they talked about wanting to find the God particle, huh? As well.
Yeah. Mostly based on the evidence I've been able to feel into with worldly events. There's often portals that open up around them that they're constantly doing, especially with the circular thing and how that can be used in ritual. The whole 666 thing, 6 in the CERN title is reflective of that, and how they keep putting these weird ritualistic videos. And
they also have a dancing Shiva statue in front of CERN, interestingly enough.
Yeah, they steal a lot of energy from Shiva, because that's the temporal authority that goes into. They'll also name a lot of their projects, like Project Ibis and all these super soldier and psionic projects, after gods and stuff that they want to either steal authority from, or if they have like the god interested in the project, the god will take over the project in some way, like Project Loki and other things. But
the god Shiva is also the destroyer. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost symbolic in a way. So what do you so you think they're opening a portal to another dimension to allow more archons or dark entities into this realm, as some people speculate about and talk about?
So CERN, and there's more than just one hadron collider. There's a bunch of secret ones. They're like these little rings that produce a huge toroidal field that affects the whole planet and light, and it creates a big frequency fence that keeps beings from leaving. This is both used by Earth as kind of like a implant that she's trying to convert into a good thing, and why it's allowed, and as well by the dark, by all these different big wizard people around the planet, including some ancient ones. So like ones the project is formed on doesn't know that's using it. So it's like being a tool used by many beings to dominate and take energy. It's hard. It would be trying to harvest a bunch of energy from multiple planets even. I've seen it trying to reach into other timelines and create other timelines to harvest stuff from and resources. It's really a big problem, but it's only seems to be a problem when there's some big negative force trying to leave or enter into the solar system. That's the only time it seems to be let off the chain, as if you were to see it like a guard dog for Earth, an AI guard dog or whatever. Otherwise, there's a lot of beings on the planet that can instantly shut CERN down. They are not allowed to shut it down when there's something loose and trying to escape. Usually from like, I track back near the Vatican or Israel or in Los Angeles or some other, where the dark ceremonial things to summon or leave the people that really want to leave, that see this as a prison, that have negative beings that possess them, that also want to leave, are going into the method and the secret space program and other stuff.
So
when that happens,
who would those energies
goes up.
be? Those dark entities, who would they be that would want to leave? Leave planet Earth, leave this realm, or what? Mostly Earth. If they can, they'll try to leave the solar system. There's a big quarantine on both the solar system and the Earth in many different ways. Not to interfere with this game, not to like, it's like to try to keep it less chaotic than it needs in invasion. Also, our rules on us are to end slavery, because we're kind of expanding the secret space program and using slaves. Not us, but like the negative factions. And so once that ends, the quarantine more ends. So if somebody wants, if they feel CERN is very active, the way to resolve the problem is to find where the beings are trying to leave, such as those big places, and bring a bunch of beings in unity to take all their energy back from those beings that are stealing a bunch of it to try to leave, because they don't have authority to leave. What beings are you referring to specifically? Okay, so I'm trying to make it broad because I see it constantly shifting out. It would be mostly through anchored bodies of evil people in places of power, in like the major families, the banking families, So you're talking about human beings, but they're the vessel. Or are they something else? Both. They're the vessel. They're I don't want to be very insulting, but it's kind of like a trash can for what the purpose of evil, where they're compressing evil down into one body, and eventually that will have a resolution. But it's it's way better than letting evil run amok everywhere, essentially.
And so Earth is utilizing that, but it's also kind of a negative thing for the people around it.
But those are also the controllers of Earth and the one that are, well, keeping the whole planet under some kind of frequency control, basically, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we hear about these dark rituals taking place and lots of things that we experience through the media with this fear porn, basically, going on all the time. But why would they want to leave, and how could they actually be able to leave through CERN?
Okay, so they want to leave because a lot of the negative families, the banking families, a lot of the ones that are infiltrating the politicians and stuff, they're like big apex predators. Some are only one predator in multiple bodies, and they're influencing chess moves. They're usually predators that devour other predators and have a hierarchical order, though. They are not leaving through CERN. The CERN is like a tool they're utilizing to abuse things, to steal energy, to control people's minds, control time, a bunch of other things that the project goes into. Whatever they can do, they lose a lot of authority, so it's not all like permanent. A lot of it's temporary projects. But they will utilize any way they can to get off planet, such as deals, rituals, interactions with ETs, things through their compartmentalized secrets, covert military projects, and there's like jump rooms and ETs that's like, oh, we just accidentally crashed this spaceship, and that are part of the ritual deals that they get this spaceship, which the reason they do that, make that seem like an accident, is because they're being monitored by a greater positive ET race that's trying to make sure that not too much negative stuff goes on here, while trying to take care of the evil problem in different ways by adding greater membership to the awareness of what it takes to protect the planet.
So please talk about ETs. You talk about the benevolent ones and the malevolent ones. Who
Sure.
are the good ones and the bad ones? Are they visiting Earth, and where do they come from? If you can mention some of the different alien races that we hear about, but what are your thoughts?
Sure. And so the ETs, before I go in, I'm letting people know I'm not condoning CERN. I'm letting them know there's a bunch of beings that have it on a chain that let it off the chain to get the beings that are trying to escape. And once that drama resolves, they can like yield the chain back, and then so CERN will be shut down again, whether the scientists want it to or not. So if you feel it's a problem, just see it as that method to like shutting it down. And it'll usually go through interacting like big spiritual brother and like monitoring people's thoughts in search of the beings that are anchoring in a hostage situation with a lot of population around the planet in a harvesting way, to get them off the planet. So that's why CERN then goes through every one of those harvest beings that are getting their energy and authority harvested. And that's why it's like, oh, everything's getting shut down, and may feel there's artificial sentience that's interacting with you. So find the thing that's trying to escape, shut that down, and then unite in a collective. Don't just do that though, because it's the beings that are trying to leave usually are very dangerous. So form in a collective and help them and try to detach from that. But like, because it's like a unity detachment, everyone detaching from it, shrinking down the parasite. It's blown itself up to make it look scarier than it really is. It does not have that authority. ETs, a lot of species. I'll only talk about a few visitation experience. So I know there's grays. I got visited by Merthyr gray that also had a few other species. I'm not really sure what they are. They're not really in our culture. The Merthyr gray is kind of a short, large head gray. There's video of it. They're one of the thousands of types of gray biological skin suit types that I've made. so a lot of the grays are also future versions of us that are separated from the planet and are like not able to breed anymore, have gone into cloning and have come back to the planet to like save their DNA and try to save their species.
Well, because they were captured by AI or the AI grid that they're building now?
Some of them, yes. And some of them just were gone for too long or off a planet to where, like, our planet, the astronauts that left went insane, and so they had to make a device to make the Schumann resonance in their space pod to keep the magnetic field of their brain intact, to keep memory and keep from eating each other. And so the same kind of thing, even more in depth, because there's more frequencies going on the planet that stimulate fertility. And so when they're gone too long, they lose their fertility, and then they went into cloning. So that's some of the species. This gray is a little bit more advanced, more emotional, more psionic, more of a leadership role in the galaxy. And when I started waking up on a different bed than was the bed that I was in, it felt like a medical bed, and I felt a bunch of different beings around me, and I was starting to open my eyes and I could see them, and they started like, oh crap, he's waking up. And then the Merther started calming me down empathically, like incredible emotion that I felt from this. It was like a female. She was like instantly, very quickly, telepathically, oh, it's okay, I know you, you already just did a memory wipe, we visited you, I'm friends with you, so much love. And I was like, oh wow, there's so much love, I can't, and then started like getting a little download of like who we are, but we can't let you know everything because you're doing strategic secret missions with us, but you can look into it later if you want. And then
so this happened in a dream or meditation, or would you consider it to be real?
Real sleep. After she kind of rocked me to sleep, and then I woke up back in my bed. So it was a different bed than that one though, but that was crazy. And there's a bunch of species and a few other UFO experiences I've had. Most of them are like the ones that are showing me themselves are doing very brave stuff, because there are like, you know, like the spiritual big brother thing where things are trying to constantly scan our thoughts to do a predictive model to keep us from awakening. Part of the strategy is keeping a lot of those secret missions we're going off and doing with our soul family and other ET races that we may have genetics with, to help the planet, or whether a lot of them want to help their own species and we're the cure for their species. So doing a lot of those missions get wiped, and the ones that remain are usually brave, and they're holding up a big weight of drama. I usually have to help them with that too, because they get targeted a lot. But yeah, and as we get out of that state where that drama lessens, there will be more of this we're allowed to remember, especially as disclosure goes into more of a swing with the interesting events that are leading to bigger amounts of culmination of, oh, what happens in this unveiling of truth 2020 vision.
But this would be very, very difficult to provide any evidence when you talk to people about this. So this is basically speculative when people hear this, right? And how would you present that to people so that they could really understand it and think that you were credible?
That's a good question. And for going more into that, I'm not really needing to come out about this. I barely talk about this at all with other people than the people that are interested to ask. I don't have any need to come out about it publicly. It's not helping me. It's not gonna make my career better or something. And I'm just doing it to help other people that really are interested. So if you believe it or not, or anyone else out there that's skeptical, believe whatever you want. It doesn't change. It's whatever. I love you, and it's whatever. It's mostly an experience thing, and since it's made to where it barely interferes with this dream, a lot of the temporal dilations of you taken somewhere else and come back in as if you never left, most of the time with amnesia barrier. There's the goal of it, the visitation is to do it within a scope where you leave no trace or evidence. And if the person goes their whole life without realizing it happened, that is very much into the non-interference principle. So it's very hard to prove. The way I've been able to prove it for myself is through the memories, through the trauma. I've been visited by more than just positive things. In the things where they try to abduct you, which I recommend people fight and examine anything that's stealing their energy to mimic their authority, because they're not allowed to abduct you unless they have your authority, and that will the authority will be before they learn about you. So if they already know about you, I recommend going back in time, because it's not set in stone. If they're stealing authority to have that timeline integration, you can go back in time with your consciousness. Just focus on the event. Conscious time travel is taught in Reiki too. Go into healing of that aspect of yourself wherever the energy is getting stolen from, usually the body, the reality bubble, or the timeline of person, like in wounds of the experience, and you go back and heal those wounds. Any of them are being tapped into for stolen authority to, like, oh yeah, you agreed to being abducted by this whatever, the parasitic race. You retract that, and you'll also want to read how much it's set in stone in time. There will be things that are like negative experiences that our higher soul would be like, well, you were able to flip that entirely into a positive and then use it as a teaching or whatever. So that those will things that you'll usually keep as long as you're able to go back and heal them and make them less worse. But there'll be things that don't need to exist at all, and they'll mostly be coming up as trauma and mind control and trying to implant the person. And
yeah, I was just gonna ask you about that. Could some of your experiences be somewhat, well, an interdimensional type of disinformation, or even false memory syndrome, or
yes,
mind control implants or something? Or, I mean, some people would probably also claim it's just some kind of manipulation, speculation, or even not the truth, what you're talking about. But please try and clear that up for people.
And that's good that people have that. It's good to be skeptical. I started skeptical. I didn't want to believe in aliens for the longest time. I was mostly getting into science and stuff. Only once I started having experiences and UFOs showing up in like huge like anxiety attacks of fear, like, oh my God, does this thing see me? And like missing time and stuff. And then me having to
experience missing time, and you saw a UFO.
Yeah, and I've also woken up with a large amount of sand in my hair that, like, I wasn't in any beach, or I went outside and I just took a shower. So it's like, and then I saved all the sand, and it's weird. And then I've also had marks and like things in my body, and like protuberances that feel like there's something underneath the skin, like things under my lip and in my nose where patches of skin were taken. There's a lot of stuff. So
you're talking about you possibly being an abductee.
Yeah, and if people want to question that, go for it. I don't really need people to believe it. I'm not really.
But what we really would like to know is if you believe it, or if you are authentic, if you're telling people the truth about your abilities, what you're seeing, what you've experienced, and the things that are not of this earth.
Okay, so I've experienced a lot, mostly experienced psionically, vision, psionic attack. So like when a species knows how to mentally project itself into another person and try to influence them, shut them down, put them in fear, pain, or get them in line, or try to dominate them. And I've had that a lot happen.
Explain to people what a psionic means, a psionic attack or a psionic ability.
we're a psionically emergent species, and as we're coming into that, it essentially means psionic is a military term for psychic accumulation of wisdom that they've collected from all these different resources around different countries through the ages, in enlightenment, in spirituality, in mind over matter, in abilities. And the military is very interested in that. They made many projects into Project Stargate, all the remote viewing projects, influences, psychic spies, remote assassination programs, and even into like where they hire a remote viewer to look after a soldier and influence them into positions of safety or dodging bullets or all kinds of things.
Would you have that ability, you say?
Yeah.
But how would you be able to use that ability? Again, we talked about, well, accessing another human being's sphere or energy field, which maybe is not allowed, hopefully.
Right. So there's two ways to do that. I usually don't engage in it unless something's incurring on me. So then it already entered my game to where I stopped doing the beating up thing. I used to do psionic punches when I was getting possessed, to the point where it would force the being out of my space, and it was like a huge weight off my shoulders. It was wonderful, and it was like, wow, this is real. And so you can learn all these different types of martial arts and abilities going into what is needed. The positive remote influence I usually go into is awakening for the planet and influencing healing in those higher selves that want it or allow it, and I don't ever infringe on them. The defense against the dark arts kind of thing is usually beings will come in. They will not have any big thing to remember. Anything that's ever incurring on you, whether it be a huge headache, huge pain out of nowhere, teeth pain, like when you close your eyes, there's only scary things, nightmares coming in, cold sweats, curled up in the shower, a huge empathic overload, getting heart attacks or organs shutting down, the chronic fatigue syndrome where you're getting drained. There's all these different methods. Most of the time they'll stay in the background and try to make it so that you don't believe there's anything there. As a harvesting source, that's much easier. If you already know there's something there and you're sensitive to it, and then you test it, then they'll try to attack you. And then that goes into trying to put you in fear, shut down things. Remember this if you can. Anything they want to do to you, they have to have your energy and authority to do it. And so the big thing to remember in any shutdown is, they're causing pain and trying to get in, or even if it's like a warning that your higher self is giving you of a worse attack that would happen in the future. Oh, this is getting started. Pay attention. Find and track back the back door they're getting into to take energy. If it's in the body, sense into any place in pain. It might be in the back of the neck, above the crown. Usually, if we're in a haunted environment, we'll get headaches or our crown will act up. This is because we have a processor that interacts with our spiritual entourage, every being around us, and our reality bubbles, and it integrates and downloads stuff in trade with other people around us. So if that is overloaded and is taking on too much, it will come down to where it's giving us attention and pain, and that'll usually be where we want to heal or do some type of activity, or pulling, or still points, or something of gratitude where you send a bunch of love to your guides and give them what they need and energy to push that all back and then support themselves back into harmony. Also, it could be like
people who are experiencing anxiety attacks, for example. Also, there are also those who are experiencing that when they go to sleep.
Exactly. So anytime you feel anxiety, feel into it. Your emotional body, pinpoint where it is, give it size and scale. Anything external that wants to have an interact with you has to find a residual match to the energy, like whether it be a wound, an absence of you, like a not wholeness, or corruption or like negative emotion that you've trapped into a little box to store, because in the beginning it was too much, and until you're ready to release it, kind of trapped emotion thing. And as we feel into the anchor that they have any power over us, and we start breathing deeply, seeing into the center, you can either do the art of letting go or transmutation of that. You can transmute it into something that is beneficial, and then they lose all power. It's mostly fear, so you'd be like shrinking down fear. Anxiety would go into either fear, or you're sensing something in the environment, or something, a part of you that's been stolen and is off in a distance. A lot of people have that, like soul shards that are stolen. Something will be harvesting energy off of that, stealing energy from them from a distance, and then dumping negative energy onto them. So you can go into bringing wholeness to yourself and cultivating that deeply, and seeing the puzzle pieces all come together. Soul shard retrieval also goes into that. Some of our energy will be stolen. So all of it, you want to retake all your energy, power, and authority. And as you retake all of that and go into a mode or ability or operating system or focus that you like, yes, I'm doing it, no doubt, already there, and it becoming that, then you will have, if you have trust and faith in your greater higher self, then it will all flow, and you'll realize you're way more powerful than that negative thing, and you'll gain an immunity to that, and in facing that darkness, that will give you a skill that is much needed in this world.
So could we say that the pineal gland is the same as the all-seeing eye, the eye of Horus, the third eye, the eye of illumination, and in the Lord of the Rings, the eye of Sauron, to access greater vision beyond the five senses and the eyes that we have already? How would you describe it symbolically?
Yeah, great questions. And you got like many layers to it. Okay. So yes, it's all a representation of all the factions and what their view on it is, and their symbols of power, and going into the vision, the eye, the center point of the brain, the DMT creator, how we dream and perceive, but that being also connected to our heart eye. Also, so there are many different perceptions of eyes. For blind people, they mostly go into their heart eye and be able to see with all their senses. So it'd be like our spark of our heart coming out of the fetus, dividing cells, and then that form the brain, and then make an even greater sensory eye to see into this physical reality and other veils that sometimes fall. We can tune into so much, and the mystery school of that, as long as you're able to meditate and go into daydreaming, imagination, the innocence of the inner child, centering into the heart, getting the left and right brain into perfect coherence, and allowing flow of love, the daydreams come easy, and you can go into a journey questing kind of mode where you have them presented before you, or you see like a hallway of doors, and all the doors lead to different things.
But the pineal gland, the significance of the pineal gland, and the fact that it's been more or less calcified and therefore not functioning to the best of its ability, almost out of function and ritually reduced from its optimized magnificence through occult magic rituals and dark energy. And through this, of course, poisonous environment, GMO food, medicine, fluoride, chemtrails, and of course, fear is the ultimate weapon. So how do we gain access or clean, cleanse, recreate, wake up the pineal gland and activate it, open up to these infinite abilities that we actually do have spiritually, because it is very significant, isn't it? Isn't that really what it all comes down to?
Absolutely. Really great question. Man. Okay. Okay. A lot of ways. It's tailored to every individual based on the wounds that they've gained, what they've inherited in DNA, their natural geniuses, and what they're dealing environmentally in, such as the toxins. Doing every sorry, kids. Trying to go into every area to where you cover all your bases and whatever thing's coming to you. So health, detoxification. I'll also go into if anything's targeting your abilities and wants them, and then you being able to cut that off. There's fields around the pineal gland that need to be activated, generators within it, a whole aspect of the body and the organs where all the energy generators of the organs, if they're turned on, the Kundalini force from the earth can flood the spine, the mitochondria turn into where they'll fuel the pineal to be on, as well as the left brain needs to be in sync with the heart.
So you think that the Kundalini is connected to the pineal gland?
Yes.
In what way? Please talk about that.
There are various channels that are talked about that are like symbolic with like the nostrils and being able to clear them to where you have full breath coming in. Breath is very important to entering a different state of consciousness, such as either through fire breath, full, and like over and over again to full oxygenation in your lungs. And then also inhaling. There's a method of going deep into meditation where the yogi practices to hold their breath longer than a minute. If they're able to for a minute, then that will enter into vision work and being able to create their own light in a state of intense bliss and silence. So like doing the fire breath to full oxygen, then getting ready to hold your breath. And then I've been able to create something that makes like a supernova of light that creates light in the mind, and to where even when your eyes are fully open, you can't see anything. It's fully white. And I use this to cultivate a whole bunch of energy and put them into intentions, as well as making the third eye more powerful to seeing visions that I empower them. So a lot of it goes into being able to spark and create lights in your mind. And once you're able to do that, you can paint with it in different colors. You can enter the school of the different colors, and as you talk to them, they will communicate back, and it will start to, you'll see the colors coming into your mind more. And whatever one that comes first will probably be the first teacher you want to work with. And then as you get into that more of, it's kind of like being out of the zone, zoned out and zoned in at the same time. You want to like define which ones you're for each. In that daydream mode and allowing to flow, and it gets more HD and bright as you focus on it and get out of the body essentially and bring more of your senses into that daydream
through meditation. Wow. So how is the pineal gland connected to the Kundalini? Because the Kundalini is sexual, huh?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing me back to that. The Eden Pingala, the two nostril channels, then the central one, Sushumna, up the spine. It's a power from the earth that's you're accepting like a current that goes up and down of grounding and empowerment, and it's stimulating a snake that's in the. It's not really a snake. It's like it's just this current that goes up the spine symbolically. It's also been called dragon force and other things. It's dormant in the root, and we have to turn on a solar plexus star to burn brightly. It's kind of like the metaphor of the star. When the sun comes out, the dormant snake under the soil, once the sun hits the soil, it starts getting it ready to come up. And
some people can access that, a Kundalini reaction during lovemaking, even without having the Kundalini activated, which you can also do physically, huh?
Yes, and it goes into creational force, sexual energy. For women, their womb gate, internal place of power. It would flow up through all the chakras, but like deal with each chakra individually, resolving all the trauma in each, until it can flow up perfectly and stimulate the whole brain to turn on. And more neurons and pathways will light up and become a normal part of your day, and it'll increase the intelligence. So creational force, whatever you put the orgasm towards, like people do like sexual magic or sigil magic, where they'll look at a symbol that represents what they want, while on the point of orgasm that will go into extreme manifestation.
What is sexual magic?
Yeah, the Tantra will be in that. So there's a bunch of mystery schools in the past that have used sex or sexuality as a way to perform magic or amplify their magic body of power, combining creational force with the solar plexus's magic energy, which is my word of describing, manifest directly to this timeline. So anything they wanted to manifest, a person, place, abundance, events, exploration, they could go into bringing a whole bunch of energy into that while looking at it. It's kind of hard to focus on anything when you're having an orgasm. That's why it's the practice. And then there's all these other techniques in semen retention and longevity and the school of life and the Ankh of like bringing the energy that's exploding out of your crown and beneath your root, swirling back into the body and keeping it there and rejuvenating the self while kind of getting into this space of being more connected with source at the orgasm.
But why should you keep it there? Why not just go for it or let it go?
You can do both. The people that want to keep it are going after longevity. So they're wanting to keep more energy and then produce more, and it kind of like builds up and creates more of a light density within them. Reverse aging, rejuvenates cells. There's even a concept into the Dantian of our gut, where martial artists will have a ceremony to cultivating a bunch of energy and compressing in their gut. And that will eventually lead to, when the pearl of condensed energy will get big enough, it will lead to greater supernatural powers and stuff.
And the elite, well, the occultists who are using the satanic ritual, they also use sexual magic to manifest, but just in a dark and a more evil, sinister way, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, good point into that. I'd say they usually go for whatever they can get a hold of in dark, in text or light text, whatever, and then use it for their ends. And then they have like but they're dealing with like the parasitic thing, where a lot of the time their energy creations are shut down and they have to steal from external until they challenge that. So it'll definitely go into seeing power over others, influencing others, getting what they want, and even having to do with abuse in a sexual nature. So, and that can go into.
We hear a lot of horrifying stories, really terrible things, actually also coming out in the mainstream media these days quite a lot, about, well, pedophilia, and that it goes up to the top. So why do you think that they're abusing children in a most horrendous manner?
Yeah. Thank you for being brave and asking that question. So they're doing it from the generations now are mostly doing it based on ceremonies and rituals they've been told and given and said, if you keep doing these consistently, you will remain in hold of your power. So even if the now generations don't fully know what it is about, it's about stealing the power of miracles and innocence. And the innocent inner child we have deep within us is our source of miracle energy, and innocence goes into that. When we have sex, we lose our innocence, but it doesn't necessarily need to be lost. There's things we should have in our culture to keeping our innocence past that degree, but they're not really there right now. So until we get that, people can reclaim their innocence. That it depends on what's stolen. It's usually like by negative entities that are like, oh yeah, these people are doing it, and they're targeting them and then taking that energy. And same thing with the haunted people that are influenced to get off in this degree. Most pedophilia, it goes into domination and a form of controlled evolution into an orientation where they can dominate those people. The whole system of pedophilia is based on a continuation of a cycle of abuse that continues mind control. They are able to blackmail these people and put them in position of power. A lot of the governments, they can't even accept people in them unless they're compromised in some way. And so that will create that environment and pass that along. And there's a dynamic between the abuser and the abused, where there's a big spiritual, the evil is again compressing a large amount of evil, and it's a big representation of a map of evil throughout the multiverse of a bunch of different things. The brave spirit that's contracted to be the abused is either, it's most of the time a part of them knows there's a potential of them entering that space, and it's like they're a trap.
Well, entering a space, you mean another dimension or another way of another emotional state?
Yeah, their emotions will sometimes be clued into it, but barely sensitive to enough. And childhood we wouldn't know, but their higher self usually be a brave spirit. When we're in childhood, we're in this age of innocence where our guides protect us from most of our drama while we're in this tapped in state of being in imagination and a wonder and ability to do things easily. So the elite want that. They're attracted to that because they lost their innocence, and they're trying to get it back through some weird degree of like seeing it in others and then being influenced to go after that. And that continues a cycle of abuse until they cut it off, or it's cut off for them by the brave spirits that are the abusers, that once they're abused and if they survive, they go through a state where they take back their power slowly, put themselves back together, retake their authority back from the entity. And since it's entered their game and their trap, they have immense amount of authority to take down that whole house of cards of evil that is entangled with that person, making the whole world better, and then also teaching them that the victim how to be a greater healer and a bunch of stuff. But not saying I'm condoning it or anything. It's just how ultimately it'll all be resolved in the cycles of abuse. So there's like an understanding for it, and a compression of a worse problem in the multiverse into one place in which is why it's continuing, and not to people think that they're just abandoned by the universe. We're in a game where we're meant to be challenged to the utmost ability. We've done things like this and it not be as hard, and it end up being we winning and it being boring eventually. But like at the same time, this does a lot.
And they also talk about feeding on or absorbing that dark fear, the energy of fear that of course happens at those terrible rituals, huh?
Yeah, the adrenochrome thing coming out on the blood. Yep. Blood magic, big thing. I'm not condoning any of this stuff. It's ultimately stupid, and the adrenochrome is makes the person that takes it get kind of possessed by demons. So it's their temporary form of life extension and temporary beauty, even though it's addicting, and it makes them, if they stop taking it, they start degrading, getting sick, or even could die.
So let's get back to the lighter side, and about, we talked about the pineal gland and even connected to the Kundalini. And if we just before we go back to talking about the pineal gland, to finish with the Kundalini talk here, do you think that women can access Kundalini activation more so than men, or easier, or how would you see it?
That's a good point. I would say that we definitely both get different ends of the equation and types of abilities or focus. Some could say that women orgasm are much more intensified, though each of us have blocks on us put on to trauma and the like circumcisions and other stuff that keep us into fully going into our multiple orgasm state, though the men can definitely have it. And then even sustained continuous orgasm or heart open orgasm. There's a lot. So it depends on the individual and what they have that they're dealing with, and if they came in blocked and they're using it as a training course to unblock it or whatever.
Yeah, and their access to emotions.
Exactly.
So, but you're also a massage therapist, huh? Have you, I mean, well, do you use that in a sexual way?
I don't. I got massage therapy as for my touch license so that I can go more into hands-on healing, and they definitely are adamant of not keeping them separate from each other, and I do that. If I find somebody that I'm having love or intimacy with, I will, and they want me to use my skills, and they're not paying for it, then yeah, I'll totally do that. But and yeah.
So you occasionally use your skills.
Yeah. I've even been, people can even give a orgasm to somebody by talking to them, bringing them into a state of healing trance to release the things to their pleasure sense, as well as from a distance. And there are different schools that teach that too, which I've been able to also train. Not the best at it, but I have been able to do it.
Wow, interesting. So the pineal gland, how can we reactivate that or cleanse it, clean it? What should people do? I mean, it's very calcified. We hear about that a lot, and perhaps some people can't even access that anymore. Or what? Can everybody access it again if they are taught how?
Absolutely. Nothing is too far gone. It just needs enough attention, enough care, enough love, enough getting past barriers of belief and doubt that it can happen. You will feel the actual blocks if you sense into it enough, and doubt is a literal block that will go along with it. If you dream, that's using the pineal gland, but in awake state, if you want it more active, you have to get the power turned on, orient that in a current to empowering the pineal gland. A lot of it can be done with allowance and faith in your higher self to do it, and like going into the flow of like letting go of all these 99% blocks that are added onto us that make us less than our true self. To make it easy, and you could probably do that in meditation, like a sacred bath or a ceremonial fire, bonfire, and where you look into the fire and then you close your eyes, and it'll help stimulate more light. Bringing it in light therapy of different types. Sun gazing goes into this. Don't do it right in the sky, but like at sunset or rise, less ultraviolet radiation, unless you got like something for ultraviolet radiation to keep the burning. Going into a cave. I know there's like mystery schools where people go into a cave for a few weeks to prevent all light from getting in, so that they produce enough melatonin and all these other aspects of their pineal gland to where their visions just come on more sensitively, and then they'll bring them out for a bit and expose them to the sun to fill up on energy really quick once it's all like open. And then bring them back in the cave, and they'll notice like it way greater. The ability to see without eyes is trained through that. Psychedelics also stimulate it. DMT, the mushrooms, all that. And
have you tried any of those mind-expanding drugs? You talked about mushrooms and LSD and whatever you can use, but also ayahuasca.
Yes, ayahuasca is really nice. It's like being embraced by the Mother Earth in the form of the vines. And it's like a jungle opens up.
Yeah, but you tried all of it. What was the best or the most, the most positive experience for you?
So far, I like mushrooms the most, mostly because I'm versed in them and they like me a lot. And it's like a dance party of mushrooms, like all around. And
They like you a lot.
Yeah, and I get really happy, a large amount of energy, and everything's funny. And no matter what I say, it's funny. But like I know that's like training me to do it all the time, in the source of all laughter in the heart. But and I also like they're all different. I as long as you're respectful of the spirit in them and you have great ceremony in it and protective space, because you're going to be dealing with a lot. You might be dealing with stuff that you're not ready to, either in yourself or the external environment, making everything safe, having protection, shaman maybe in the room, all that kind of stuff, to where you're able to face those things, or even if it's your greatest fear, to be ready to do that and realize you can overcome it if you shine love. And it's kind of like, if you're able to come to where you're able to face even your greatest enemy and be able to shine love while facing them, then you've won. And any negative visions that come up will be like, oh, it's not working, switch to another one. So if that's a shadow aspect, if it's a bad trip, you can always flip bad trips into good trips. That's usually just because the shadow needs you to face it to order to transmute it and to come to a greater light thing. Ayahuasca is good for teaching mother. San Pedro is the great father. LSD I like, but it can be sometimes too long. If and at least when I was having bad trips, the weather wasn't good and the environment's not good, and you're in there for too long, it cannot be that great. But Argot of Rye, it can be really good if you're in the right environment and you're using it well, and in nature especially, and maybe some music, but know that any entanglement with the internet you'll feel as like a negative thing.
But people should be very careful about using that. You don't recommend people in general to take that, do you, or what?
I never really have to have a conversation where I'd recommend it unless they bring it up themselves. And I'd be asking them about their experience, what they're doing it for, and all the things. And if it checks off all the lists, then I'd say, oh, okay. Like if they're in extreme depression and they don't know who they are and they want truth and they're willing to do like big things, then yeah, go for it, as long as you're safe. And if you're doing it for the first time, have a safety buddy, because you don't want to be like, and you don't want to take too much. Then you might go crazy, because like it will stimulate a greater awareness of the world around you and even other realms. And the people that go into that and they're not balanced go insane. So it's a balancing act.
So you have to be really careful, and you have to understand what emotional and psychological level you're on if you're even contemplating doing that, huh?
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to downplay it. People will have an amazing experience no matter what, but if you end up having a bad trip, know that you can turn it good. And the biggest thing to focus on is hugging yourself and cultivating self-love. If you can love every aspect of yourself and universe, everything external to you is in a reflection. So it will have an effect in that too, and to where you can create love shields. You can start testing abilities. So there's a purpose for all of it, but definitely be careful and not condoning things unless you're safe and you know what you're doing.
So Sean, you are really you're only 26 now, huh? And you've done a lot already, but you're on this mind expanding path. And I'm not just talking about these mind expanding drugs, but just in general. And you are really discovering a lot of things right now, and clearly you're trying to find your way in all of this. What is your main goal for the future? What would you like to do in the future, or from now on, basically?
Thank you for asking that. I'd like to help the planet however I can to get past the struggles that's going on, to where it's resilient and it can stimulate more empowered, truthful people to come up and realize who they are and lead the generations of the future into a greater peace and heaven on earth. And I've seen the best way to do that is empowering people in what their power is and truth and their spirit and psionics, and to where they can put it into any aspect of their life, make their life better, manifest their dream, their abundance, their happiness, the love of their life, adventure, and seek the answers of why they're here. And the more people that do that, the better things get. The 100th monkey effect concept, the more people awaken, the more people around them awaken, and it becomes like a little effect. And just so many of our problems will just heal as people work on their own consciousness and emotions and everything that holds them back. And if you guys are dealing with anything, let me know, and then I'd be honored to help you.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are facing big problems at the moment because of this lockdown situation. How would you suggest, or what would you talk to people about? How should they deal with what is coming if something really bad is going to happen also with this whole pandemic situation that we're all in the middle of right now?
Great question. And you already have the intuition a lot too, and a lot of the audience does. I would definitely say focus on what you can to maintain your bubble of reality. A lot of people are being forced into survival mode, and to focus on their immunity. No matter what you believe, immune system health is good. You're getting out of survival into thrival, attainable existence, protection in whatever way you need, as well as safety, as actual energy we can create in a field that creates our existence, and when we create a home base, that we create enough safety to where we're getting rid of the anxiety and the presentation and can rise back into our full knowingness. As we come into relaxation, we get more thoughts, awarenesses. So once the fear hits, all the stuff, see what it teaches us to bring us into action, to get out of that state of endangerment. If it's still going like anxiety, it doesn't need to be there. It's just shutting down. So go into meditation, breath work, to where you let go of everything that you can feel in attachment and negativity of heaviness on the heart. And as you're like pushing that out, like pulses of light in the center of your heart, like pushing out, like uprooting from a garden all the darkness programming, it gets clear. Our emotional body gets clear. We can sense into more things accurately. Intuition comes up. We get all this predictive model of what we could do in the future. Our higher self has a plan. Our source connection to whatever people believe as their creator. Even if they see themselves as them, there's a lot of beliefs. Go into that with what you're comfortable with, and find out what you need to build upon that base of a strong foundation in your reality. Once you have that strong foundation, do what you love, research what you love, optimize time, focus on energy so that you're not drained all the time, and retaking your power. And the more you will find you have more energy to do the things you want to do, and cutting out the things you don't want, cutting out the bad things in your life, the energy draining people, all the stuff that holds you back from that dream you have. And no matter what it is, if you think it's ridiculous, if you love it enough and you're willing to fight for it, it deserves to be in this reality. You deserve to be happy in doing that. And the earth wants that to shine as a perspective in you, if it's your true self.
So people should be brave enough to stand in their own truth.
Absolutely, because the whole universe will get behind them.
And not be hijacked by fear, huh?
Absolutely. And if you want to release fear, just feel into it, hug it, give it what it needs. It's mostly lack of love, and it goes into feeling it's not good enough to do something to be protected against like a danger. And so you fill it with love, give it wholeness, and it will start shrinking down until you shrink it down to nothing, and it won't be a pressure on the heart anymore. And it will usually be stored in the kidneys, the bladder, the root, or the heart, depending on what it has to do with. And you can go into those cave of fears. The same thing with the pineal gland. This also turns it on more. If you're like, okay, I want to go into the mode of facing my pineal shadow, which is essentially allowing because we like to shut down the pineal anytime we have imaginations of stuff that we don't like or are afraid of or is kind of disgusting or imprinted from the reality around that we don't want to look at. So as we face those things, and emotions will come up because they'll trigger trauma already inside of us. As we face those fears and breathe into the trauma, start shrinking it down, feeling more love, and are able to feel love while facing entirely, it'll just move to the next one. And the vision will turn on more brighter, more HD, and because it's getting rid of blocks. So that's another way to turn up the HD for vision. And then you'll be fearless.
So what is the thing that you love the most?
I guess love. It's kind of like anywhere it exists. I love that. I haven't really been asked that much. It kind of feels like a smart ass answer for me to answer like everyone, but I like to go into a mode where I feel into myself as everyone, and that will create a big unity as I go deep within the heart. And there's a large amount of love from that when everyone's in unity. So I think I love the most when everyone's in unity, because it's like all syncs together. Like some of the biggest fears we have is realizing we're more powerful than we could ever imagine. And that's one of the bigger fears that you hold within. And if you're able to meditate on that for like a certain amount of time, maybe 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, because it will come in like a to-do list and files on the desk of what we're ready for. And as you feel into that, you get an image and you face, there'll be like aspects of us that are our lightest self, our darkest self, and usually our lightest self, there'll be dark and a light version of us that has the most amount of power. And before we can embrace the light self, the light self will usually ask us to take care of our darkest self. So if you can face that you're more powerful than you can ever imagine in both your light and dark self, and be able to embrace them in full harmony and love and unity. And they mostly don't want the other one controlling each other. So as long as you're able to get each to let go of control over each other, not in like, oh, my evil self is now allowed to run amok kind of thing, not that, but where you're bringing them to a space of negotiation where they realize it's a better option to be in unity, and the two, light and dark, can trade. One has resilience, one has the great amount of light and power and healing and everything, so they both can help each other. It's like your angel and the demon are like coming to peace, and once that happens, the self-defeating programs, most of them release, and you're able to overcome most problems. And it goes into releasing all control over the dark self is mostly the problem, because it feels like I don't want to be controlled, and it will be backlash against you and the light self and stuff. As they both release control off each other, it wants to be able to make the choice. You can still negotiate with it, have all these debates and stuff, and in the healing of it, in the wholeness of it, it will come to the realization of what you're trying to say, and that in the healing of the dark self and bringing it up out the darkness into the light. Once the release of control, because it's mostly polarized when I see it in people, bring it to balanced control, not needing control, just being. Let's go of the whole chessboard of anything that's trying to control you in print programs. So it's just being, and that balance state. They're not able to be, and pretend to be you. So then you're the only one programming for yourself. And as that unity, you will feel it, and the darkness transmutes into light.
Wow, that was a fascinating thing there. So if we were to talk again, or if we were to do another interview at some point, or a conversation here, would you want to go into some of the aspects that we didn't cover today, or what about some of the things that you were not very keen on telling me? Was that in order to protect yourself?
You can ask and stuff. I'll let you know if I can't go into anything particular. This is not touched on too much particularly, so you're good at asking questions. So feel free to go into those. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great. I think it's been really interesting and very fascinating to have you on the show, Sean. And I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with us here at Age of Truth TV.
Very interesting how we got into this. It was very spur and synchronistic, and very, very glad to be here and to know you more, and be able to have the opportunity to talk with you is a deep honor. And you're definitely a special person, and I'm really glad that you're here on the planet. You know, I guess our nature is to be programmable, to either be the symbiotic bee or the parasitic grasshopper or whatever. And as we choose and learn from our heroes, and there are people like you that shine a good example of a balanced person in their divine masculine and feminine, that is able to use their power to bring more abundance to everyone else, and not be at the taking away force, but like a constant giving, but like also from themselves in power to their life.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. That was wonderful. I appreciate that. And I wish you all the best of luck. And with all of the things that you're doing and all of the things that you're, well, discovering at the moment, it's very exciting, and it's an exciting and extraordinary, difficult, but also good time in a way. And we need a lot of young people to be teachers, and we need a lot of people to spread awareness and more truth and clarity.
I agree. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for listening to this conversation. And please share and this as much as you can.
Thank you. And just before we end, please mention your website, or how people can get to know more about you, to see what you're doing or get in contact with you.
Sure. Thank you. If you want to reach me, you can type in psionicleague.com, or I'm also on YouTube, Psionic League, and Sean Bond on Facebook. Silvercord Spiritual Science at gmail.com. You can also reach me for scheduling and other stuff if you need to help with like a targeting or healing or whatever.
Sean Bond, thank you so much for being on Age of Truth TV.
Thank you for having me. Age of Truth, definitely needed, like the name.
Great. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Let me know anytime. And we
Thank you. Speak to you soon, huh?
Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Sean Bond, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. Do sign up for our newsletter on our website. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you again soon.